Just little bits wrapped up in rice that you can share with friends.
Jack.
Levi.
Are we the crazy ones? Hello everyone, it's Jack, and this is Are We the Crazy Ones, the podcast where we travel to the fringes of culture and tell you what they look like. Do you like dolphins? Well, no matter how strongly you feel about them, I know someone who likes them even more. Ilona Selke, a German telepath, mystic, author, television host, musician, businesswoman, healer, explorer of subtle dimensions, and cetacean enjoyer. And for this episode, Levi and I read one of Selke's more well-known books, Wisdom of the Dolphins. Now, a bit of background. Selke was born in the Himalayas to a German family, living in Afghanistan for the first 3 years of her life before her father's death prompted her family to return to Germany. When she was 20, Selke moved to the United States of America to study philosophy and comparative religion. Unfulfilled, Selke moved on to bigger and better things, joining forces with her husband, Don Paris, PhD, to explore the fields of holodynamics, psychotronics, the SE5, radionics, body-centered psychotherapy, meditation, massage therapy, breathing therapy, Hakomi, Gestalt therapy, dolphin research, and so much more. On the business side of things, for 10 years, Selke and Paris operated Dolphin Watch Incorporated, a dolphin watching boat in Key West, Florida. The married couple has also founded Living from Vision, a corporation dedicated to teaching about the quantum understanding of reality, whereby consciousness interacts with matter. So a bit more about this episode's book, Wisdom of the Dolphins. It's a whirlwind tour of several strands of Selke thought, brought together by the connecting narrative of Ilona and her husband travelling to various tropical locales and swimming with dolphins. We get to hear about the holographic universe, which, as I understand it, describes reality as a projected illusion within the universe, itself a conscious construct. That is, a construction of our consciousnesses. As such, by visualizing things that we desire via the method of image transformation, we can manifest our desires in this reality. We also hear plenty about the telepathic capabilities of dolphins and their transcendent wisdom. Time travel, hopping between quantum multiverses on a whim, ascending to higher dimensions, talking to Jacques Chirac's soul in an out-of-body experience. This book has a lot going for it. So, brave explorers of quantum mysticism, I invite you to join Levi and me in our quest to look beyond mundane clockwork reality and partake in the wisdom of the dolphins. Enjoy.
I don't know why we're recording this podcast over the internet using the crappy human technology and why we don't just stream directly psychically to each other's brains and also psychically to all our audience, all 3 audience members.
That'd be pretty good. I mean, you'd save on infrastructure costs.
Yeah, it'd probably be a pretty good
Wouldn't need
business.
to edit the podcast afterwards.
No, if we could just perfectly stream it into people's brains. We wouldn't even need to have a conversation. We could just make them feel the way.
Yeah, we might even pick up some more audience members if dolphins listen.
We've got a whole new market, the dolphins.
We crack the dolphin market. Whales are pretty telepathic, so
Yeah.
we might get a few whales, but there aren't that many of them, so
Yeah,
it's
and
not the
cold,
main
so
market I would
it's a
chase,
decreasing
the whale
as well.
market.
Probably not going to go
Yeah.
after the orcas.
They're definitely in decline, so
It's a declining market.
probably won't go after the whales.
Like-
But dolphins, we might chase that segment of the market.
Yeah,
I think that's a good
there
idea.
might be other telepathic species out there that we don't know about. Maybe orangutans. They have pretty highly developed neocortex.
I don't think Selke ever talked about...
No, she didn't. She didn't talk about any of the other apes. I'm saying we might be able to find some other telepathic animals.
I'd assume that if there were another strongly telepathic species on Earth, she would have mentioned it in the exhaustive
research.
tome that is Wisdom of the Dolphins.
Yes.
So when
So
this book is my responsibility, as in I was the one who proposed it. when I told you that I wanted to do Wisdom of the Dolphins, how did you feel?
How did I feel when you recommended this book? I rolled my eyes a little bit. at the title of the book. I just knew as soon as you said it, I was just like, oh god, I know.
The title was exactly the same, exactly the thing that made me want to do it. It's a really strong title.
Yeah. I almost feel like I didn't need to read the book based on the title. It was exactly what I was expecting it was going to be.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there, because it was a lot wackier than I would have anticipated. So you started reading it before me, and I remember you messaging and saying that this thing goes from 0 to batshit in 0.6 seconds.
Yeah, you could say she really jumped the shark pretty early, Jack. Anyways, yeah, it's like page 2. She starts talking about, I don't know, telepathically transporting herself to a different timeline in the multiverse or something like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of interdimensional hopping and a lot of hopping backwards and forwards through time. And there's a persistent character called the Time Traveler.
Yeah, the Time Traveler.
But
who presumably is based on a real person that she just doesn't name. Anyway, should we like sort of give the outline of this book?
This book is thoroughly disorganized, and so the way we're going to do this is we're just going to talk about odd stories she gives, because basically this whole book it has a very loose narrative about her going from not appreciating the telepathic potential of dolphins to embracing the telepathic potential of dolphins, and also getting all sorts of superpowers in the meantime, like being able to time travel. But really, it's a succession of strange events that happen to her and her beloved Don.
Oh, Don.
Don. Good old
what
Don.
A sweetheart.
Are they married? He's either her husband or her boyfriend, but Don features
some sort.
Yeah, he features very heavily.
Her beloved, her betrothed. Yes.
Her beloved Don, with his blue eyes like an angel. That came up a few times.
Angelic Don. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love that his name is Don. It's just so
Don.
pleasant. Don. So
What would your I'm not going to say 2-sentence summary, because I'll run straight over that, but what would your brief summary of this book
okay, try and keep it to a nutshell for the audience, for the people who don't want to listen to the subsequent conversation, like Jack's mum.
Wisdom of the Dolphin.
Here's the sub 2-hour summary of the book.
You should read it.
You should read it.
That's the summary.
Oh, sorry, my phone's ringing. All right, I'll turn that off. Yes, so what is the wisdom of the dolphins? So, high-level summary is this woman, Ilona, or I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I think she's German. So, Ilona Selke. I apologize if I've botched that completely. This lady claims to have figured out how to time travel using her imagination and to transport to different parts of the universe and commune with sort of psychic entities, and then through her imagination change reality and change the course of history and events. And one of the many skills that she has with regards to her psychic superpowers is the ability to telepathically communicate with dolphins. And it's basically the story of how she came about having this special set of abilities. Yeah.
That's a pretty good summary.
I don't know if I have.
I think you should probably add that in many places in this book, she starts advertising for her course, Living Through Vision.
I think that's about 2/3 of the way. I think it is actually like in sales funnels, you like drip feed, and you increase the level of commitment that people have to the purchase. So a really classic example of this is like when you go to a website and you get a free PDF. That PDF is like a hook to get you in to the sales funnel. And then if somebody follows a link to a course through that PDF, they're already like pre-qualified. So if somebody goes to Ilona and says, "Hey, I read your book," she already knows they're fucking on board. Like, like they're ready to go. So this is a filtering pamphlet, I think, partially to a $700 course.
I also found
dolphins.
She's an avid flautist, as she reveals in the book. So I listened to some of her tunes on Spotify. Don's got some
flautist
music as well.
She plays the flute. Yes. Yeah, I think if it is actually her playing the flute, which I'll take her word for it, on Don's beautiful albums, Tibetana 2 and Tibetana 3, which you can find on Spotify. It's quite pleasant for new age music. There's nothing to complain about. Would I listen to Don Paris PhD? Would I prefer to listen to Don Paris PhD or Burzum? I'll take Don Paris, thank you very much, although Jack might disagree.
There's a lot less white nationalism in their music than Burzum. It's a night and day difference. So this book's been pretty interesting because we were discussing the gender imbalance of the people we've covered on this show, and we realised we were looking in the wrong place to find authors who weren't men. Once you go New Age,
oh boy,
the gender diversity flips.
Yeah, the world of female insanity opens up to you. If you didn't feel like you had enough female insanity in your life, just go down to like a yogic bookshop or something.
Yeah, I find that there's a massive generalization. Male insanity, when it comes to extreme books, involves a lot more violence. It's far more brutal.
In our expert experience as internet anthropologists, with specializations in human insanity, we've noticed a strong gender imbalance. Men tend to be violent, or like at least advocate violence, and homicidal, and extremely
strongly authoritarian.
Strongly authoritarian.
Even people like, say, Terence McKenna, who say that they're not authoritarian, are still very prescriptive. They give you a book and say, okay, and this is how you should behave.
Yes.
Whereas this book it's very much an internal journey. It's Ilona discovering that she can time travel by talking to dolphins, and then she says, look, if you want to learn about it too, that's on you. I've got a $700 course that you can come to if you're interested. It's there's not as much of an authoritarian streak.
Yeah.
We segued into this well too, because Evola was new agey woo-woo fascism. And this is just woo-woo. Removing fascism from most, if not all things, improves them. So this is an improvement on Evola.
So we went Mussolini, Evola, Selke, which is full fascist, no woo-woo, woo-woo fascist, and then full woo-woo, no fascist, which is a great progression. I'm very happy with this one. Yeah. So look, Ilona points, all she talks about is love and transforming your inner being and letting your love radiate out into the world and making heaven on earth and talking to dolphins. She isn't advocating for like a strong class hierarchy or like
not a
absolute
single
war
hint
in Europe
of anti-Semitism.
Not a single hit, not once.
Not a smidgen of anti-Semitism, which for this show is amazing.
No murder. No
genocide.
No mail bombs. Yeah.
No racism. No
racism.
It's very...
And yet, she's still the craziest one we've read.
Yeah, it's almost... I'm not saying she's psychotic, but some of her stories just sound like psychotic episodes. Just the complete break from consensual reality. When her body dissolves, she turns into a pillar of light and ascends to a much higher dimension, which is populated by dolphins.
So, according to the Wikipedia page, the authoritative source on everything, magical thinking. In psychiatry, magical thinking is a disorder of thought content. Here it denotes the false belief that one's thoughts, actions, or words will cause or prevent a specific consequence in some way that defies or circumvents commonly understood laws of causality.
And that will be super relevant because I think she's averted at least some nuclear tests by imagining. Yeah, by her technique of
personality
image transformation.
Disorder. Yeah, I have no doubt she has some sort of like psychiatric disorder.
What do you reckon it's like to occupy the subjectivity of someone like this? It's probably pretty good.
Oh, I think she's having is she having a grand old time? I reckon there's stuff that she's left out of the book.
A good time.
Here's what I disagree with Jack. See, I reckon there's probably stuff that she's left out of the book as she's freaking out at times. The things are just like haywire. I think it's really chaotic in her world, and she's just reporting on the stuff that will get her to sell her course.
There has been a bit of there were a few instances of trying to sell stuff. One, the Living Through Vision course, but also Don really likes new technology. Especially, I think it's called an SE5.
Yeah,
I couldn't quite
SE5.
work out what.
No,
I couldn't work out what it measures. I couldn't even find the measurement units of whatever is measured. But it's used to measure something, and Don really likes it. And it was recommended that you purchase an SE5, one of Don's courses on how to use the SE5.
It's like she started talking about the SE5, and I'm like, wait a second, did I miss something? Did you actually explain what the SE5 does?
I had to look it up on the internet, but I couldn't work out what it was.
So let me see, SE5 Don Paris. We must just have such an eclectic mix of Google searches.
Yeah, my Amazon recommended books are getting pretty weird.
SE5, the future has arrived.
Can you find the units of measurement, though? They talk about vibrations a lot, but...
So, okay. I can't work out what it is. Regaining wholeness through the subtle dimensions. This has opened up a whole new category of crazy within our podcast, Jack. It's phenomenal because now we get to talk about Deepak Chopra. We get to talk about all the people that they reference. Like there's another person they referenced. Uri Geller, Deepak Chopra, all the psychics. Yeah. And
that's
maybe
right.
that.
Fuck, there was a scene in this book where they literally were bending spoons with their minds. But it's every New Age trope she's managed to cram into 200 pages.
The 200 rambling pages. So
it's quite rambling. You could basically abstract everything that happens in this book as follows. Basically, Ilona she has some sort of experience that suggests to her she should travel to somewhere tropical with Don. They go somewhere tropical. They have a spiritual experience, which often involves dolphins. Either the hint of dolphins, as in the dolphins aren't physically with them, but she'll be meditating and then ascend through dimensions or go forward or back in time and commune with dolphins that way, or there'll be dolphins around her and she'll be snorkeling or something. She'll have a spiritual awakening and realize some deep truth about the universe, which is oftentimes it's kind of the same realization, but she has this realization many times, and then she vows to learn more about it. And that basic structure just repeats itself, and then the book ends.
And just so people know, what our subjective experience of this book was like. It's 200 pages with no paragraphs and no chapters.
It's pretty tiring.
And she hops. It's borderline stream of consciousness. It's like she was just writing, and when she'd remember something, like, oh, this event happened, she would just write it down. Like, oh, and then I remembered this. And then I was talking to this person who reminded me of this other thing. and then at some point she would circle back to the original scene. And then the time traveler showed up. And then I had this not psychedelic because she thinks it's real, like cosmic, interdimensional, internal experience. She'll describe that for like a few pages, and then she'll jump back to the original scene or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was, I think, okay, this is what I think her subjective experience is like, Jack. I think it's pure chaos. That's what I think. I think she is just having a grand old play time. She's pretty much walking around on acid all the time. I just hope that for her sake that she's not having, as I said before, that she's not having like the opposite of this as well, which is like psychotic magical thinking of like really pernicious or malicious sorts. I hope she's just having like fun with dolphins for her sake. It'd be really nice. Sounds like a nice life.
If you truly believed it, it would feel like a very meaningful life.
Yeah. Well, she's dedicated her life to it.
She's got a few things that she says that the absolute essence of the world. There's all that is. There is oneness. There's some sort of toroidal structure that she talks about as something about a black hole and a white hole being near each other, and the black hole takes in negative energy and it exits through the white hole in a purified positive form.
Yeah.
And she kept talking about that, and I never really quite understood it. She quite likes quantum physics, and I don't understand quantum physics. Yeah,
this is why we needed to start reading Deepak Chopra, dude. He's the one. He is the one. He is the progenitor of he's the one who introduced the New Age people to quantum physics. And they all love it.
I feel that I'm supremely qualified to talk about.
They'll start talking about like quantum physics, and you're like, mate, you have not read a goddamn single physics book in your life. Don't start talking to me about quantum physics. There's a friend's friend who I got into not an argument about, but a discussion about astrology with, and he really likes astrology. And I just asked questions. I didn't even like argue with the guy. I just asked him some questions, and he got really angry about it, about asking questions. And then he started wanting to talk about like quantum physics and stuff, and the way that they claim that the subjectivity of the observer of the experiment changes the experiment itself. And I'm like, mate, can you just explain the experiment to me before he's done making claims about the ability of the subjective observer being able to change the experiment itself? Like, how does the experiment work? No, you can't. It's just dumb.
They never got as far as the double slit experiment.
No, well, that's what they're trying to. That's the experiment they're referring to, is the double slit experiment. That's the one that they refer to. It's like, no. You don't even understand the experiment. Tell me how the experiment works. No.
So
it's just
what is it?
Anyways,
there are a few pillars, I guess you could say. So this isn't a particularly rigorous book. It's not like Evola where he'll have a series of precepts that you follow, and his conclusions flow on from those in a fairly coherent way. This book doesn't really have that, but there are a few things, I guess, that are important. There's image transformation, which is a technique that she discovered from a time traveler in Arizona that has really helped her life.
So here's the logic.
I'm laughing, and I'm sounding too smarmy.
No, okay.
It's
I'll
just
help you
very
out.
hard
I'll
not
help
to
you
do.
out, Jack. Okay, so I'm going to preface this with this is from msdmanuals.com, and this is a description from the DSM-5, the Diagnostical and Statistical Manual 5, which is psychology sort of diagnosis.
Psychiatry.
It says psychiatry, yeah. It says in schizotypal personality disorder, cognitive experiences.
Diagnosing it now.
Cognitive experiences reflect a more florid departure from reality. For example, ideas of reference, paranoid ideas, bodily illusions, and magical thinking, and a greater disorganization of thought and speech than occurs in other personality disorders. I'm just putting that out there. I'm just saying this is something schizotypal personality disorder, STPD, is a thing. It's just a thing. Anyways, so vision transformation.
I came across in my notes while you were saying that this quote, which just illustrates what you were talking about. So she's got this story. I'm getting distracted already. At the start of the book, there's a story. There's a story about what kicked off their interest in dolphins, and it was they were on a plane. And they were on a plane to Hawaii and got some sort of vision of dolphins. And so she talks about how she's sitting next to Don and they've worked out how to communicate telepathically. And she says, blue luminous light shone forth from his inner being, sensing my every thought and feeling. So they're sitting on a plane together, telepathically communicating.
And Don is perceiving her naked in her her inner being.
Yeah.
Spiritual nakedity next to one another, intertwined in harmony.
And they were thinking about the quantum universe as opposed to the Newtonian universe. So the Newtonian universe is a dumb idea for dumb people.
And it's clockwork universe.
Yeah, it says that
stupid things like
will.
A body will stay in motion unless acted
everything's mechanical
by an external force.
Most importantly, it's really boring. That seems
it's no
to be
fun.
one of the main criticisms of it. It's just not fun. So therefore,
was a very fun person.
Quantum physics are true. Newton sounded pretty fucked in the head. He was probably quite. I don't know if
he had pretty
was
magical
fun,
thinking. He was an alchemist. He wasn't fun. He sounded like an asshole.
He was pretty bonkers,
I think
he invented calculus in his spare time.
If we could boil the world down to in his spare time, if as well as putting England on the fucking gold standard, goddamn little tyrant.
Sound money.
No. Sorry, he took them off the gold standard.
Wait, Isaac Newton?
Yeah, Newton took them off.
What?
Yeah, he helped justify. He was like the person who was trying to figure out how to what ratio to set exchange rates at. Bunch of bullshit with his alchemy stuff. He did a bunch of good stuff. That was not so good.
Yeah, and he gave us this idea of the Newtonian universe rather than the quantum dolphin verse.
I'm just going to put this out there as an internet anthropologist. We could archetypically,
that's the one,
decompose the intellectual development of the species into two buckets. Because as we've read from Terence McKenna, that's a perfectly legitimate way to slice up the intellectual development of the world. So what we can do is we can think, okay, what are the various psychiatric and psychological disorders that humans have? Well, one of the major ones is autism and autism-like disorders. And the other one is schizophrenia and schizoid-like disorders. And throughout the world history, it's been a battle between these two giants of intellectual disorders. And at the moment, we are living in the age of autism, where we have autists like Isaac Newton, who have dominated the world with their mechanical clockwork vision of the universe, and they have suppressed the schizoid personality types and their vision of a quantum world, such as Ilona. And all we're doing on this show is saying, hey, There are other perspectives other than the autists, all right? It's not just the autistic physicists who get to tell us what the world is like. We also need to listen like, you know what? I think she'd be a big fan of David Deutsch, you know? All about that quantum computation.
What's his view on time travel? Because she does that a lot. So, back to the airplane story. She and Don are
I think we would agree
on the
with
airplane.
very much
And
in this book.
what, listeners, I want you to imagine you're a passenger nearby. So there's a German woman and her blue-eyed partner staring at each other and communicating telepathically next to
Intensely
you.
staring at one another through the duration of the trip from LAX to Maui. Deeply staring into one another's eyes.
And it was on this plane
Flute in
that they
hand.
discovered the power of image transformation, although they didn't know yet that this was image transformation, because the plane was going to be super delayed. Really delayed. They were flying to Hawaii and they weren't happy about that because they wanted to get to Hawaii. So they decided to change universes to a universe where the plane wasn't delayed. Right? And they did this. And then an announcement came over the PA that in 5 minutes the plane was going to take off.
And then
QED, you can travel between dimensions, and you can also time travel. She does time travel quite a bit, and then so you're still the person sitting next to them.
Yeah, wait, she took
She says, "Happily, we got our things together and walked down the aisles of our new universe airplane. It didn't look much different from the other universe, in which we would have had to wait for several hours. As a matter of fact, if I hadn't experienced this process so many times before, as an aside, changing universes, I easily could have written it all off as coincidence." So you've got these two space cakes wandering up and down the airplane, staring at people, going, "Oh man, this new universe looks so much like the other universe we were in."
It looks so much like the other plane. However, if I hadn't just universe jumped, I could have been mistaken. I witnessed it with my own eyes. I jumped universes.
Yeah, so that story kind of sums up
Summarize
the experience of reading this book. Imagine that story for over 200 pages, and that's Wisdom of the Dolphins, although it does get weirder.
At the end of each iteration of this story, whether it's with dolphins or whatever, she says, "Could it have been a coincidence? I don't think so."
Yeah,
no, it couldn't have been a coincidence.
This is the Terence McKenna thing, where he repeatedly goes, "Oh, look, I'm just being scientific. I'm just observing the facts and putting them together so that you can make you can draw your own conclusions from this corpus of knowledge that I've assembled, all of these observations of mine." However, he then goes on to act as if what he believes is completely true. The pictorial evidence seems incontrovertible, as he said. The B-man. And similarly to this, every now and then she'll go, maybe it was a coincidence. And then in the next paragraph, she'll say, "Yeah, I was traveling through time and I became an Aztec priestess." Or I was a Native American on the Trail of Tears.
Yeah, in Oregon or something. I experienced the suffering of the Native Americans. And she's not like I empathized with and tried to imagine.
No,
their
she
point of
was
view.
there.
No, I literally embodied a person having that experience how many years ago. Felt it directly.
Yeah.
Whilst I'm in some teepee with a shaman or something, like beating his little drum over the top of me. Like, this is just, oh man.
So
I want to meet people like this.
I'm not totally sure I do, actually.
So
basically
image transformation. Let's explain that. I just want to.
Yeah.
Okay. So in image transformation. This is a very rambly episode, much like Ilona.
It is not possible, or maybe it's possible, but I just don't know how you order this stuff, because definitions of things like image transformation also just keep changing.
So, image transformation. You use your imagination to obviously imagine something, an image, and what you want. Say, for example, I don't know, hypothetically, you really love dolphins and you were really upset by the fact that the fishing industry, in particular tuna fishing, kills a lot of dolphins.
Look for it,
for example. I don't know, just a random example. And
just
so
putting it
you
out there.
You might imagine, for example, looking at the planet from outside, and you can see energy sources, like glowing, luminous energy sources in, say, I don't know, Japan, the Gulf of Texas, and Southern California. And you realize, like, oh, these energy sources are the energy of the three major fishing companies in the world that are killing all the dolphins. And you decide, okay, what if I talk to one of these energy sources, and you go and have a conversation with the Southern Californian energy source, and you start talking to that energy source, and it turns out it's the leader. It's the energy of the leader of the Californian company. And you ask it, oh, why are you doing this? And the energy source just innocently explains, well, we employ people, we've got responsibilities to our shareholders, and also our tuna feeds millions of people. Like, we're just trying to do the right thing. But then you say, well, you know what? You're also killing a lot of dolphins. And there's a lot of people that are really upset by your dolphins. And actually, if they found out about all the dolphins you kill, might stop eating your tuna. And that would also affect all the people that you employ and stuff. So then the Californian leader energy source might say, you know what? That's a really good point. We hadn't thought about that. Maybe there's an alternative. Maybe there's some other way that we can catch our tuna without killing all these dolphins, because we don't give a fuck about the tunas suffering. We only care about the dolphins.
They're just dumb fish. They're not telepathic.
They're not. They haven't undergone millions of years of high prefrontal cortex evolution, unlike dolphins and whales.
Oh man, she's got that stuff about dolphin brains. Anyway, continue this.
You can, and then you reach this agreement. Like, yes, okay. This is in your imagination, right? You're an energy bulb, like a globe of light floating through the universe. You've come down from outer space to Southern California, and you're like having a psychic communication session with the energy globe. That's like a different energy globe. It's in a high dimension. Oh, I don't know about that. Is superior to somehow more morally right or something. I don't know. So she's having this conversation, or you're having this conversation with this energy ball over the top of like a sea, the coast of Southern California. You reach this agreement, and then they go their way. That globe goes back to the company. You go back to your body in the quote unquote real world, or the lower 3/4 dimensional realm of our normal bodies and in space-time. And then you come to, and you realize, like, oh, that was really wonderful. I expressed my truest intentions, and I was able to manifest this inner experience. And then say like 3 or 4 months later, you're having a conversation with somebody else about tuna and dolphins and whales and stuff. And they mention to you, hey, did you hear that this major company in Southern California who kills all these dolphins have decided to change their fishing practices and now not killing all these dolphins? What? Could that just... What? Whoa, man.
Is it a coincidence?
I think not.
I think not.
The pictorial evidence is incontrovertible. So that is image transformation. Some inner experience, you strongly envision something happening, you express your your deepest desires, you let your imagination go wild, and then that inner transformation will actually manifest itself in the external world.
And so the story of how she came across image transformation is really worth going through. and then the highest application that at least at the time of writing this book that she has achieved
I
with
hope she's
image
graduated
transformation.
into something even better.
Even better, yeah. Well, she
She's
talked to a
going to
French
higher and
president.
higher dimensions.
At least with this book, she talked to a French president. But so first, where did she first come across image transformation? Well, it was at the Psychotronic Conference, which is a gathering of alternative scientists.
I would love to go to this conference, man.
Don was doing his thing here with the SE5, which is a good device. As an aside, if I don't,
You can find it at se-5.com.
The her sales pitch for how good the SE5 is. He said that the US Department of Agriculture demonstrated that you could use the SE5 to drive insects away from cornfields, which would obviate the need for pesticides, by sending information to the cornfield using a photograph. That sounds pretty useful to me.
That sounds super
That's
useful.
just my opinion.
I just think that if that existed,
it was also
people would be
used by a
all
woman in
over it.
Utah to grow abnormally large potatoes.
Surely Ilona and Don are fucking billionaires. You can send images to crops and stop the pests.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, as an aside, the SE5 is sick. You should all buy one and also sign up for the Living Through Vision course. Only $700. So she was attending a lecture at the Psychotronic Conference about the Holographic Universe, which I think is what you carry in your inner mind reflects itself in the external world. I think that's what the Holographic Universe means, but I'm not sure. Anyway, while this was happening, she spilled a drink on herself. It was some sort of fruit juice or vegetable juice. She repeatedly, I have a feeling that they're vegetarians or vegans, because every time there is any sort of food, they qualify it as being delicious and vegetarian.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So,
vegan or vegetarian.
She spilled a delicious vegetarian juice on her. Vegetarian juice doesn't have blended meat in it. No one drinks that. I didn't need to make that clear. If it were otherwise unclear, it was a meat-free juice that she spilled on herself.
Gross.
So she goes outside. She goes outside because spilling
aren't
this
you
drink on
keto?
herself,
Do you have keto juice? Do you just blend raw meat?
keto juice? Just blend kidneys and drink it.
Sorry, go on.
So spilling this juice on herself really unsettled her, and she couldn't quite work out why she was so unsettled by this. But she's a very intuitive person. She knew to go with this intuition. So anyway, she left the lecture theatre, and she was disappointed because she was really enjoying this lecture on the Holographic Universe. She goes outside and starts meditating and talks to the manifestation of her inner turmoil, which is a red blob. And that's the same colour as this juice that she spilled on herself. So you're already beginning to see what a midwit might think of as coincidences, but a galaxy brain dolphin appreciator knows is actually a reflection of the underlying architecture of the universe. So she talks to this red blob and asks what's going on. And it says that it doesn't want her to listen to authority, which is why it made her spill juice on herself in the lecture theatre. She accepts the authority of the red blob in her mind. And it tells her about a really effective method of inner transformation and healing. It it showed it showed her a fountain which was donut shaped, which represents moving in and out of dimensions. The red blob fused with the fountain and healed Ilona through all pasts and futures. And that's image transformation, baby.
So do you see what we mean by her life must just be either pure chaos or pure fun or chaotic fun? Because she just interpreted spilling juice on herself as like some meaningful event that meant that she shouldn't listen to the authority figures, who she then later talks with anyways, and it becomes like a primary figure in the rest of the book, the time traveler who she missed. So that's her life. Everything has meaning.
This fusion of the red blob and the toroidal fountain, which represents the universe, turns out that this is a time traveler talking to her from the desert in Arizona. So she says, "Who are you?" I asked my inner mentor, feeling that I was speaking with someone beyond my own imaginative mind. "I'm a time traveler, coming from the future. You have called for your learning to accelerate in order to help humanity, and here I am, one of many who can help point the way." She goes back to the lecture theatre, and they're talking about something really similar to what she just experienced. I got a quote here. "Needless to say, Don and I were thrilled by the lecture. During the entire presentation, we felt our cells ringing with excitement. From a place deep inside, we knew the information presented was true, as though our DNA were singing hallelujah." This is another weird thing. So it's got all this new agey stuff, but very much in a Judeo-Christian context, because there's also talk about angels. Like, angels are everywhere.
She doesn't.
God.
She never mentions Jesus.
No, I'm not.
But yeah, presumably very Judeo-Christian.
I'm not sure she's a Christian. I mean, I'm sure the dolphin stuff would be idolatrous, but
yeah. This is from my small amount of exposure to New Age bullshit. I mean, sorry, New Age perspectives.
I think it's pretty clear what we think of the book. I didn't like the book, just I didn't like it in a very different way to disliking the fascist or communist stuff that we've read previously.
Yeah. It's equal magnitudes, different variety, I would say. So there's this kind of non-committedness to any particular like spiritual worldview. It's kind of a universalizing worldview, but they can justify cherry picking any, or we like this bit from Hinduism, and we like this bit from Tibetan Buddhism, and we like this bit from, I don't know, Christianity. We'll ignore all the other parts, and we can justify it by just saying, well, God is one, the universe is one, and it all comes from the same source. So we can,
interestingly, they tend to reject the bits that don't involve wandering around in Hawaii or Florida and going snorkeling with dolphins.
Yeah.
All of the bits that might make, if I were to be uncharitable, demands on them or necessitate changes in their everyday life.
Yeah, anything that actually requires, some sort of commitment or sacrifice.
Instead of just like pissing around with your SE5 and talking to dolphins in your head. Anyway,
making love to Don in
unfair.
The water. Next to another couple.
Let's unpack. Anyway, plot twist. Oh, actually, no, I already spoiled it. The time traveler is this dude in Arizona who runs the RIM Institute and teaches the transformation method, which is what we talked about before. The transformation method is pretty much anything you want, you can make manifest as a shape in your mind. by thinking about it, and then you talk to the shape,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. You got to talk to the
things that you want to happen, like a California fishing company not killing dolphins to catch dumbass tuna that no one cares about.
Not even a loner.
If you talk to the company by manifesting it as a shape in your mind, then you can affect change in the world, even in the external world, which isn't that good because it's not super high dimensional, but at the same time, it's worth playing with. Anyway, the best case, the best example of image transformation, and this is crazy. This is, when I say crazy, I don't mean pejorative crazy. I mean my mind is blown crazy. She saw a news article at some point about French nuclear tests in the South Pacific, and okay, so a bit of context. She swam with dolphins and they sent her this image of an underwater explosion and they were none too pleased. All right, just imagine you're at home and someone blows up a nuclear bomb in your house. You're not going to, well, I mean, you're not going to exist, but if you could exist, you wouldn't be happy.
You're just,
It would. It's more than an imposition.
a dolphin sitting at the bottom of the ocean, telepathically communicating with a loner, and all of a sudden a nuclear bomb goes off in your backyard.
Hey mate, can you stop the French blowing up nukes in our house?
Hey Ilona, hey Ilona Selke, can you please go and talk to the French president and ask him to stop blowing up my backyard?
So
with
anyway,
nuclear
she was
warheads?
thinking about this and thinking, oh, okay, wow, how can I? One, this is such a big problem. How could I possibly stop this? This is on... So there is something of a narrative arc. This is having read 100 and something pages of her talking about how to address these big problems. So the reader immediately goes, I see where the story's going. She connects to the energy of the French minister responsible for nuclear tests and then eventually to the president. And she sees that the president's heart was hard because he's lonely. And so she... And this is not in the physical world. This is like she starts meditating and then becomes a beam of light and ascends and then sees the face of God and becomes an angel. Before all of these image transformations, there is often about a page or two of some sort of metaphysical journey that oftentimes involves DNA vibrations and cells and beams of light.
Biofields.
Yeah. So anyway, she invites this hard-hearted French president's soul energy to hug her soul energy, and they do that. And then she turns this loneliness into a ring of daisies. And then the nuclear testing stops a few months later. And so I looked at when... So this book was published in 2008, and nuclear tests were stopped by Jacques Chirac. So I can only deduce that she talked to Jacques Chirac's soul. Jacques Chirac being the former president of France, and turned his loneliness into a ring of daisies. And that stopped nuclear testing in the South Pacific by the French.
History. And when did this...
History.
When did this... So the nuclear
I didn't
testing
hear about
stopped.
this in school.
When did the nuclear testing stop? In the 2000s?
1996, from
96.
my extremely brief research.
So she's been doing this for the last 30 years at least.
She's a master.
So
she talked to Jacques Chirac, or to his soul, and got him to stop nuclear testing. That's pretty good. I mean, I couldn't do that.
she's curing pesticides with the SE5. Sorry, her and Don.
No. That was the US
and
Department of
stop.
Agriculture, Levi.
Yeah, but they were using the SE5, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think
Don
the
gets
SE5 is
credit
Don's invention though. He's just a really big fan.
Sorry, my mistake. I'm misrepresenting the book.
He's just an ardent SE5 enjoyer. This episode is just as disordered as the book.
He's an early adopter of the SE5. It's just really into it. It's just a fanboy. It's like one of those early Apple guys.
While we plebs were using Sony Walkmans, he was the guy with the first generation Apple iPod.
Fuck me, man. So sorry, forgive me. I misspoke. Look, I'm just going to be honest. I really did find this book quite disorienting to me and hard to keep track of what exactly was going on. Okay, there was something I wanted to talk about. She had this. I don't know if I highlighted it. Let's see if I can find it. She had this idea that. Okay, moving on from image transformation, another one of her ideas or claims about the way that reality works is that your body is just a vessel and your soul can be disaggregated from that vessel and your soul can actually jump from body to body. So soul moving, there's fluidity on the soul dimension. And at times, she literally felt as though, not felt, but was convinced that when she was talking to a particular body, although that body belonged to somebody else, throughout the conversation, that body became inhabited by somebody else's soul. And so then she was actually communing with that other person's soul. So, for example, she was supposed to go to Hawaii or something, and her friend who was supposed to come with her couldn't because her friend had a funeral or something to go to. And so they were really disappointed. And so she got on the plane. As she's getting on the plane, she noticed somebody who looked a lot like her friend. She spots this person who's like a doppelganger of her mate. Let's call him Jacques. I don't know, Jacques' doppelganger. And she's like, wow, that person does. Even Don, who definitely does not have schizotypal personality disorder either. Even Don is like, hey, that guy over there looks a lot like your friend Jacques, right? They're like, whoa, what a strange coincidence. Coincidence? Not in Ilona's world. She sits down. Those don't exist.
Can you imagine? So, I'm just putting it out there. These are the last people you want to sit next to on a plane because they'll either be floating around staring at everything because it looks so similar to the universe that they just dropped out of, or they'll be talking to you because they're convinced you're the vessel for the soul of their friend who couldn't come swim with dolphins with them in Hawaii.
They're staring deeply into your eyes.
Being fucking interrogated by some stranger and her husband on the plane about how you're the interdimensional vessel of their friend's soul.
So she sits down, and lo and behold, the doppelganger, pseudo-Jacques, sits next to her, and she starts having this conversation. Turns out this guy's a scientist. So, the big boogeyman scientist. Every time she talks about somebody who's got like a scientific perspective or is a scientist, she's like skeptical. But then this thing happened. We bent the spoon, and the scientist. Now the scientist is convinced that you can bend spoons with your mind. Like, doesn't that? So, anyway, pseudo Jacques sits next to her on the plane. Hey, pseudo Jacques is a scientist. I'm going to talk to him for a while. And as I talk to him, I get more and more of a sense that I'm really talking to real Jacques. Like, he's telepathically embodying pseudo-Jacques' body. And then I get all emotional and I just can't continue having this conversation anymore. So I stare out the window, trying to hide the fact that there's tears welling up in my eyes. And pseudo-Jacques goes, Ilona, you You gentle soul, are you okay? You poor thing. You fucking little space cake. What's going on? Why are you getting upset on the plane? We're having a pleasant conversation. Why are you crying? Based on how intently you were staring into my eyes, I thought this was a good conversation.
I've got a quote.
She turns back and she says, what does she say, Jack?
No, this isn't specific to the plane. So she's not just antisocial on planes. This is a broader problem in her life. She says, sometimes friends called me up from faraway places and told me of a chance encounter they had that day with a person who looked just like me, gave hugs just like me, and talked of dolphins just like me. They felt that I was visiting them. The difficult part was not to confuse the person who seemed to be lending his or her services with my soul essence. Not only is she seeing other people's souls in just strangers' bodies, this is spreading to people around her.
But
I also really like that
she is not aware of the fact that she's communicating, soul communicating
with
other people.
There's another quote here that's a good one. Sometimes I noticed that people even shapeshifted right before eyes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's the clincher. That's the clincher, though.
Can you... Yeah, holy shit. So, parts of her life sound quite fun. Just the deep sense of meaning. But other bits, just the shape-shifting people sounds... At least, to me, that would be unbearably disturbing.
Yeah, so I think that's actually the point in the book. Like, that exact quote is the point at which I went, oh, this person's really, like, I don't know if it was the talking to dolphins thing that, like, just kicked me over the edge. Because at first I thought, oh, maybe she's just lying. She's just full of shit. And then she said that, and I was like, nah. The penny dropped for me. I was like, nah, this person's just got some sort of schizoid disorder, and she's just writing about it.
I'm not going to go and diagnose it, but she's...
Yeah, well, that's because you're a professional.
Her subjective experience sounds markedly different to my own. That's dramatically different. This is a life that is very difficult to recognize as something comparable to what I lead each day. It's on the shape-shifting thing. How she's got that subplot, I guess, in Hawaii with Carl.
Yeah.
So she's got a spirit guide called Gopal Das, and she just
which is actually an incorrect.
She just introduces stuff.
Gopal. His name is Gopal. 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 But she spells it like separate words. Gopal Das.
Gopal Das. Anyway, so she's got this spirit guide.
He's a guru. He's an Indian guru. Did you actually check out this guy's face? Dude, he looks like
No, does he have blue eyes? Because she keeps talking about how he has blue eyes.
Hold on. Before you continue on, just quickly click on this link and bring it up on the screen on your...
Yeah. Oh, Gopal... Okay. Yeah. So
look at this guy. This guy's the cooker. This guy is the dolphin master.
Dolphin master.
Okay, for listeners, this guy was a former former HP engineer, Indian fella, bald, like guru bald, shaved his head.
He looks like Avatar: The Last Airbender with the stuff painted on his head.
Yeah, and
he's got it painted on his head all the time.
Down the now. Don't want to denigrate the guy's religion or whatever, but basically, I am. No. Essentially,
he smiles
if you just imagine Indian guru, like, this is the guy. Indian guru walking around, orange cloaks and stuff, painting on his face. This guy, people like Ilona and Don fucking love this shit. They love this shit. They love the Indian gurus.
Yeah.
They'll eat up every word of what they say. Me too, man. I want to go to India and like hang out with some gurus and do some yoga and shit. But like, I don't know. I'm not communing with dolphins.
Anyway, so they're in Hawaii because they're going to go swim with some dolphins. And on the flight to Hawaii, this is a common theme when they're flying. The crazy really comes out. So they spoke to the spirit of Hawaii, like, of the islands, on the flight. And I think the spirit of the islands said that there will be some spirit guide that's going to meet them. And so Ilona met this guy called Carl, who has blue eyes. And as soon as she met him, tears welled up in her eyes and she got super nervous. I'm not sure what he thought. And it's because Carl was just a vessel for Gopal. I keep saying it Gopal Das. I'm butchering his name because I'm reading it as she wrote it.
Gopal Das. Gopal Das. I don't know.
Is that how it's pronounced? Because in my notes, because how she spelled it, it's like G-O space P-A-L space D-A-S. Anyway, so this just random dude in Hawaii. They become friends because he's just a warm meat sack animated by this Indian guru, this spirit guide of Ilona's. And at several points in this story where they go swimming with dolphins and things like that with this guy, and she keeps talking about how she doesn't get too attached to him because he's not him, and she doesn't have a relationship with Carl. It's with the spirit guru who's using Carl's body without asking Carl if he wants his body to
this
be
is non-consensual body
puppet
hijacking.
to swim with dolphins using.
What's that sci-fi? The Day of the Body Snatchers? Oh no, Day of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
Body snatch. This is some body snatching shit. Like Gopal Das, this freaky Avatar Airbender Indian guru, is just jumping into other people's bodies to have a conversation with Ilona dolphins in Hawaii to tell her how to swim with dolphins.
Yeah, man. How about we talk about dolphins? Because we
haven't even spoken about the goddamn dolphins.
Well, so the thing is, yeah, dolphins are really important, and they're really telepathic, and they're really good. But that's so much of the weirdness. The weirdness is explored using dolphins as a narrative device. In the author's mind, this is all literally true. But for me, when I read this, I felt like the dolphins existed as a narrative device to reveal to Ilona and the reader the deeper structure of the universe and all of reality. So, why are dolphins really good? Well, they've got really big brains, right?
Yeah, they've got very big
way
brains.
More developed brains. She says they have
Very
more
convoluted.
evolved brains than humans.
Very convoluted. They have highly, very squiggly brains. They have a very high surface area of grey matter there in their cortex. Yeah. Very smart little dudes. They're swimming in the ocean.
Humans have only had really, really evolved brains for a brief period, whereas dolphins have had really evolved brains
biology
for a long time. But I'm not actually sure what she means by that.
Well, she doesn't get into the specifics. It's known that cetaceans have been highly evolved for many millions of years, whereas humans have only been evolving for the last 100,000 years.
Yeah, here we go. She says, whereas humans have undergone less than 100,000 years of meaningful evolution and have only had an evolved brain for less than 40,000 years. I don't know what that means. It's a statement that's not even wrong. It just doesn't.
It's not even wrong.
It
just doesn't, completely discombobulated.
It's just not
disconnected from reality. It just doesn't mean anything. She's just gotten some words and stirred them in a pot.
she's got so humans use brain power with our hands. Dolphins don't have brain power, but they've got so much going on in there.
They've got
in
brain
their
power,
heads.
but they don't have hands.
It's got to
They
go
don't have
somewhere,
opposable
right?
thumbs. Yeah.
So it goes into interdimensional communication, which that's the logical option. You can have hands. We can communicate interdimensionally.
You can have hands and feebly develop communication. So she's like, humans, we're so dumb we have to use technology to communicate across the face of the planet.
Yeah, she's got an amazing quote about that.
But dolphins,
point. She says,
fucking dolphins, they don't need technology.
The fact that whales have had a global communication network and have had it for millions of years without the use of technology should make us think. It's just an established fact that whales for millions of years have had a global communication network.
Now, apparently, this isn't interesting. This is actually. Apparently, I have not fact checked this, but so don't believe anything I say. But apparently, they do communicate very long distances. I don't know if it's around the entire world, but their songs can be heard a very, very long way away. I think that's what she's referring to. The fact that dolphins,
if it's
not
conducting
dolphins,
through
whales,
water, it'll go a long way, but
can communicate a very long way. But like, I don't even know if this book deserves like a proper retort.
But what can you say to it?
You can't say anything.
Anything you say, the response will be, "Well, I experienced it."
Could it be coincidence?
I was there when I swam with dolphins, and they pulled me into their energy field, which allowed me to stay underwater for an extremely long time and swim extremely quickly.
Yeah, stay under. Oh yeah, that was one of the first things in the book. Is she basically, as we're talking about the dolphins now, she's like, "Look, this is what happened. Me and Don were swimming with the dolphins. At one point, we were able to stay underwater for like minutes." 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and just keep on swimming and swim at the same speed and
fast.
Agility as the dolphins. So like spinning around and all that sort of stuff. And if you've seen dolphins, right, videos of dolphins, you know, they're pretty agile in the water. They're pretty fast. So to do that, it's a very impressive feat. She's just like, yeah, well, this is what happened when we were swimming out there in Maui. Spent 15 minutes doing pirouettes with the dolphins underwater.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you can't say anything because her experience is the yardstick by which we measure reality at this point. I have nothing to say.
Yeah, the dolphins are pretty amazing, though. The insights she got from them. There were several points at which she would telepathically make a play date with the dolphins, so send out a signal while she was meditating and have some strange force answer her and say, "Oh, come meet us
leader
at this time in this place.
Let's go tomorrow. And hang out. Hey fellas, I just got a call from Ilona. She wants to meet up tomorrow. Let's go swimming with Don and Ilona." Got nothing better to do
like
as the interdimensional dolphins and to swim with this fucking woman.
I feel like the essence of this book and of Ilona Selke thought is reading too much into coincidence. It's a very
pretty much summarized.
It's a very egocentric way to live. I don't say this as insultingly. This is just everything that happens.
Yeah.
In some way relates to her. There doesn't seem to be space in her subjectivity for events that don't have anything to do with her.
And don't have any meaning.
She goes to the beach and she can see dolphins swimming out in the sea. One explanation would be, okay, well, you're in Hawaii, and this is a beach where dolphins are known
And
to
it's
show
part
up.
of the reason why people go to Hawaii. In fact, that's why you came to Hawaii. You
This is-
explicitly
this is
came
the
here to have this
exact reason she
experience
went
because
to
this is
Hawaii.
a high prevalence area for dolphins.
Yeah, but in her world, because at some point in the past, dolphins, well, she talked to something which said, "Oh, come to this beach at this time," and she did that, and she saw
imagined
dolphins.
Yes.
Yeah. Then, what are two events that aren't really related to each other? Her going to the beach and dolphins coming and swimming in the sea there are now linked in a fundamental way.
No, it's worse than that. Okay, so this is one of the things that happened. She communed with the dolphins psychically. She thought the dolphin said be there at 8:45 a.m. She got to the beach with Don at 8:45, but she didn't get in the water. She saw the dolphins, she saw them jumping at 8:45.
That's right.
She wasn't. They were a little bit slow to get their scuba gear or their diving gear on, and they didn't quite get in there. They probably got in there at like 8:50, right? So they're like 5 minutes late. By that point, the dolphins had gone. Nah, too late. We're out. We said 8:45. You're fucking late, mate. We're gone. So that, in and of itself, was evidence that she had actually communicated with the dolphins the night prior, and they did in fact say 8:45 because they didn't hang around. So that left no room in her interpretation to think, oh, they just happened to be there, and when I was there at 8:45, but they hung out and they didn't mind that I was late. They were there for like half an hour. I got in there at 9:15 and they were still there, so they weren't serious. It was just a coincidence. No, they were there at 8:45. They left. I was too late. I missed my appointment. Therefore, they must have actually been speaking to me in my imagination.
Yep.
because as we know, dolphins are very punctual.
Apparently so. I didn't know that, but we've got an expert on dolphins here. I've got a quote here.
Oh no! So wait. Just before you, there was also
go
just, and here was the cherry on top of that fucking story and this is the way that this person's mind works. As I said, like there's nothing in this world, in Ilona's subjective experience, that does not have meaning, and there is no such thing as coincidence. She said, as she's running onto the beach and she sees the dolphins coming or whatever, she runs up to a poor fucking innocent bystander who has nothing to do with this situation.
Not even on an airplane. This is branching out for her.
And she says she sees that she has a wristwatch, that the guy has a wristwatch, and what does she says? Why would this person have a wristwatch on a beach in Hawaii when you never need to know the time when you're in such an island paradise? So I asked him, what's the time? And he said, it's 8:45. And there's the fucking dolphins and it's 8:45. But it's literally in the same sentence that she's requiring. She literally needs the time, and she's on the beach, and she's saying, why would this person have a wristwatch on the beach in Hawaii when you never need to know the time?
Ilona.
It's like, what
For
the
her.
fuck are you talking about? But because this person who would not have otherwise had a wristwatch on the beach in Hawaii where you don't need to know the time, that's not a coincidence. It must have been because she was meant to see that the dolphins were there at 8:45. There you have it. The circumstantial evidence seems incontrovertible.
It seems incontrovertible. And all of her stories are like this. All of her stories involve her, at some point in the past, having a vision of something very vague. Like, I was swimming with the dolphins and I had an image of an underwater explosion. And then you learn months later about nuclear tests by the French in the South Pacific. And she will just decide, okay, well, this can't be a coincidence. These two things are causally linked, and she is the linchpin of the entire universe. It seems. She cultivates this worldview. I've got this quote here. We can stretch this comfort zone slowly by expanding the beliefs that we collectively